The biggest mistake a woman can make is thinking that chasing harder will finally make him see her value. You've been told, show him you care, prove you're different, don't give up. But there's a huge difference between loving someone and running after someone who keeps walking away. One is love, the other is self-abandonment. Carl Jung said we don't attract what we want, we attract what we believe we are. If deep down you see yourself as someone who has to run to be chosen, you will keep meeting people who make you run, people who only move toward you when you move first, people who feel powerful as long as you're the one chasing. So what does it mean to move from chasing to choosing? Choosing means you respond based on how you're treated, not based on how terrified you are to lose him. Choosing means you don't explain your worth. You embody it in your boundaries, in your standards, in what you no longer tolerate. You understand that your attention is a gift, not a debt you owe anyone just because you like them. There are two kinds of women. One woman loses herself when she stops chasing because she has no idea who she is without the pursuit. The other woman finds herself when she stops chasing because she finally has the space to come back home to her own life. Same situation, same silence, same man, completely different identity. So I want to ask you, honestly, not from your fear, but from your truth, which one are you becoming? And if this made something click inside you, tap, so this message reaches more women who need it, and tell me in the comments which version of you you're choosing to step into from today. So we've talked about you, but let's talk about him for a moment. What's really behind that cold, distant behavior that looks like indifference, but is often covering something much deeper? What is he trying to hide from you? And maybe even from himself? Because just like the female mind, the male psyche is full of shadows too. Hidden fears, unresolved wounds, and unconscious parts he's constantly trying to push down and avoid. First, there's his ego, the image he has of himself, the confident one, the wanted one, the man who feels in control. This is the version he wants you and the world to see. Then there's his shadow, the parts he hides even from himself. His insecurity, his fear of not being enough, his fear of being abandoned, his fear of getting too close and then getting hurt. Now pay attention to what happens when you are the one always chasing. As long as you run after him, he never has to look at that shadow. He can keep believing, I'm the prize, I'm the one in control, I'm the one she needs. Your chasing becomes proof for his ego. If she's chasing me, I must be worth chasing. But Jung said that what we refuse to confront in ourselves, we end up recreating in our relationships. So a man who is terrified of feeling small, who is terrified of feeling powerless, will unconsciously put himself in situations where someone is chasing him just so he can feel big. This is why your decision to stop chasing him is so powerful. It doesn't just change the dynamic between you and him, it forces him to meet someone he's been avoiding his whole life, himself. Let's talk about his first deep fear when you stop chasing him, the fear of losing his ego supply. As long as you chase him, he gets a constant dose of it. He gets your fast replies, he gets your constant availability, he gets your excitement every time he shows up. Even if it's after days of silence, he cancels, comes back, disappears, reappears, and you're still there, answering, explaining, understanding, making excuses for him. From his point of view, this doesn't feel like just attention. This feels like proof that he matters, proof that he still has you, proof that no matter how little he gives, you'll still be there. That's not just attention, that's ego supply. It's like an emotional IV drip. He doesn't have to do much, and yet he feels important, wanted, powerful, desired, just because you keep reaching out. But then one day, you're tired of begging for bare minimum, tired of feeling like you're auditioning for a role in his life. he hasn't even decided to offer. And for the first time, you stop. You don't send that just checking in message. You don't reply the second you see his name pop up. You don't go out of your way to get his attention anymore. On the outside, it looks like nothing. You're simply quieter, less available, less obsessed. But inside his ego, alarms start going off. The mirror he used to look into to feel important suddenly goes quiet. The reflection isn't as bright as before, and his first fear kicks in, the fear of losing his ego supply. Now pay attention to what often happens next, because this is where many women get confused. He might start watching your stories more often. He might like a random post from 3 weeks ago. He might send a lazy, "Hey," or "long time no talk." Nothing deep, nothing clear, nothing that says, "I'm ready to show up fully." He's not fully coming back. He's just testing to see if you're still the same woman who will light up at the tiniest breadcrumb of effort, testing if one word from him is enough to reopen all the doors. What he's really asking with those small moves is, do I still have access to the old version of you? The one who chased, the one who explained, the one who always tried harder. And here is where your power truly lies. Because your reaction in this moment teaches him everything. It teaches him whether he actually lost something valuable or whether he still owns you without having to try. So let me ask you, have you ever noticed how he magically appears the moment you finally start to pull away? If that's ever happened to you, tell me in the comments, and you're definitely not alone in this pattern. Carl Jung called the shadow the part of us we don't want to admit exists, the side we hide even from ourselves. For many men, that shadow can be summed up in 3 words: I'm not enough, not successful enough, not stable enough, not emotionally mature enough, not lovable enough if someone really gets close and sees all of him. So what does he do? He builds an image. He becomes the strong, independent one, the one who doesn't catch feelings, who's too busy, who just isn't the relationship type right now. And as long as you're the one chasing, that image feels safe. Because when you chase, or he can pretend he's in control, even when he's scared inside. He can hide the fact that he doesn't actually know how to lead a real, healthy relationship. Your effort covers his fear. Your chasing covers his lack of courage. Your overthinking covers his avoidance. But when you go quiet, when you stop trying to fix, explain, or talk things through, and this is where his second deepest fear comes in. If she's not chasing me, does that mean she sees through me? That thought is terrifying for a man who has built his identity on the mask. Your silence becomes a mirror he can't control. For a man who has spent years hiding from his own reflection, being seen, truly seen, can feel more frightening than being left. When you were chasing, he could always point at you and say, "She's too emotional, she wants too much, she's overreacting." But when you stop, there is no more drama to blame. There is no more "she's doing too much" to hide behind. There is only the gap between who he pretends to be and who he actually is when no one else is doing the emotional work for him. Jung said that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will run our life and we will call it fate. And here's the thing, a fragile ego would rather believe you're cold, heartless, or over it, than admit he's scared of being truly seen and still not chosen. It's easier for him to say, "She changed," than to admit, "She outgrew the version of me that never grew up." Your absence doesn't just create distance, it creates clarity. For him, because he's forced to see where he really stands when you're no longer feeding his image. And for you, because without the noise of chasing and fixing, you can finally see Is this a man who is willing to look at his shadow, or is this someone who will keep hiding behind his ego and calling it just how I am? Your silence doesn't just leave space, it reveals truth. And once you see that truth clearly, it becomes a lot harder to settle for the performance when you've already glimpsed the reality behind it. Think about how it used to be. When all your energy went into him, your day, your mood, your plans, he felt like the center of your universe. You checked your phone to see if he had replied. You chose your outfit wondering if he would like it. You said yes to things you didn't want just to stay close to him. Your emotions rose and fell based on how much attention he gave you that day. And even if you were busy, even if you had a whole life, somewhere inside, he was still the main storyline. Of course, he got comfortable. Why wouldn't he? But something changes the moment you stop chasing and you quietly start doing something radical. You reinvest in your friends. You go back to your goals. You take care of your body, your mind, your soul. You stop waiting for his message to decide what kind of day you'll have. You wake up with your own plans, your own priorities. You stop pausing your life in case he suddenly appears. Carl Jung said that what we pour our energy into grows. When you were pouring your energy into him, his importance grew, at least in your world. But when you start pouring that energy back into yourself, your world expands. You become more alive, more grounded, more interesting, not for him, but for you. And this is where his third deepest fear comes in. What if she becomes someone I can't reach anymore? What if she becomes too confident, too happy, too free? He might not use those words, but he feels it. He looks at your life and realizes you're not waiting, you're not frozen, you're evolving. You're going out with people who actually value your presence. You're laughing without checking if he saw it. You're posting, not to get his attention, but because you're genuinely living. You're not above him as a human being. You're not better than him in some arrogant way. You're simply beyond the version of you who once begged for crumbs. And that's what scares him. Because the woman who once needed his approval now walks like someone who approves of herself. The woman who used to chase his love now pours that love into her own life. The woman who used to make him the main character is now the main character in her own story. And deep down, he knows a woman who is fulfilled, connected, growing, is a woman who can choose. She can choose him, or she can choose to keep walking without him. And for a man who built his comfort on the belief that you would never outgrow him, there is nothing more terrifying than realizing you already are. There's a big difference between a man who is genuinely busy and a man who is quietly avoiding you. One will still find a way to reassure you, even with a short message. The other disappears completely and leaves you in confusion. Confusion is not a love language. A lot of women hear the word stoic and think it means being cold, distant, or pretending not to care. That's not what I'm talking about. Stoicism, in its real form, is not about shutting your heart down. It's about caring deeply while staying centered when people don't act the way you wish they would. It's the art of knowing. I don't control everything that happens, but I do control who I become in the middle of it. So when it comes to this man and your decision to stop chasing, stoicism is your best friend, because you cannot control whether he texts, whether he chooses you, but you can control whether you abandon yourself to win his attention, whether you keep chasing what keeps running from you, whether you make his inconsistency bigger than your own peace. That is real power. Not making him stay, but staying with yourself, no matter what he does. Next time you feel that urge to reach out first, to fix, to explain, to send that long paragraph, or that just wanted to check in message, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, am I doing this from love or from fear? Love feels grounded, calm, respectful of yourself. Fear feels tight, urgent, desperate, like, if I don't do this, I'll lose him. If it's fear, the most powerful thing you can do in that moment is to stay still and choose yourself instead, because every time you choose your peace over panic, you're training your nervous system to trust you more than it fears losing him. His deepest fear is not losing a woman who chases him. He gets used to that. He expects that. There's always another woman willing to overgive, overthink, overprove. His deepest fear is losing the woman who finally realizes she never had to chase anyone to begin with. Because when you stop chasing, only two things can happen. Either he steps up, faces his shadow, and chooses you clearly, with effort, consistency, and presence. Or he fades away, and you finally see he was never strong enough to walk beside the woman you're becoming. So the real question isn't, will he be afraid of losing me if I stop chasing? The real question is, do I even want a love that only exists when I exhaust myself to keep it alive? A woman who knows her worth doesn't need to run after anyone. She builds a life so full, so rich, so authentic, that the right man is afraid of losing her the moment he meets her. He doesn't feel pressured to perform. He feels honored to stay. If this message helped you see chasing from a different angle, if something inside you whispered, "This is me, and I'm ready to change," give this video a like so it reaches more women who are tired of running after love. Subscribe and turn on notifications if you're ready to stop chasing and start choosing yourself, your peace, and the love that chooses you back. And tell me in the comments, what is one chase pattern you're ready to let go of today? Your story might be exactly what another woman needs to read to remember her own power.